This trip was my introduction to North Cascades National Park. I had no idea that a place this gorgeous was so close by. We had great weather, tons of wildlife, a spicy glacier section, and a really fun rock scrambling to get to the summit. The views started before we even got to the parking lot, with Johannesburg Mountain towering over the road from the south. The trail up to Cascade Pass is designed to be easy, but that means that getting up to the ridge from the parking lot takes more than 30 switchbacks and 2.5 miles. The breaks in the trees offered tantalizing glimpses of the mountains across the valley, but the clouds rolled in fast and we spent most of this part socked in. Once the switchbacks end, the trail goes straight to Cascade Pass along a steep hillside. We saw a bunch of wildflowers here, but most of the scenery was hidden by fast-moving fog. Once at Cascade Pass, we turned left for Sahale Arm. Here the trail got steeper and rockier, but I stopped paying attention to that because the clouds started parting.
That makes me go, ooh.
Yeah. The wind formed the mist into all kinds of fantastical shapes that kept revealing and hiding the valley and the many towering peaks on the other side. After a while, we climbed out of the steep section and got our first views of Sahale Mountain.
The glacier does look pretty steep.
Yeah. The trail leveled out here, and we got a full-on view of our objective, high above us, with the meltwater from its glacier flowing and falling down the steep face into an incredibly turquoise, doubtful lake. Coming around the corner, we almost ran into a large brown bear blocking the trail. It was in no hurry to move, slowly ambling its way through the bushes on the hillside. I've since learned that this bear is very well known on this trail and has been sighted all the way down to Cascade Pass. The next section is again steep, climbing alternating sides of the ridge, and here we ran into more wildlife, including marmots and a flock of ptarmigans, none of which seemed to care that we were hiking close by. The clouds rolled in as we were hiking the flatter part of the ridge, but several parties making their way down from Sahale camp reassured us that it was all clear just a little higher up. At this point, we were running low on water, so we stopped and filled up at this small waterfall. As we climbed the steeper terrain out of the clouds and into full sun, I kept stopping to look back at the clouds flowing through the peaks and down over the lake. Eventually, we made it onto the rocky ridge overlooking Sahale Glacier Camp and got a close-up view of the glacier we'd still have to cross. There's several bivvy spots right on the ridge, with a bunch of others lower down. After a snack break, we made our way down to the glacier, put on crampons, roped up, and started climbing. The first part of the glacier was steep and very icy, so crampons were definitely required, and I kinda wished that I had brought my mountaineering boots instead of the approach shoes that I was wearing. We carefully made our way between the crevasses onto the upper half of the glacier, where the slope got shallower. We crossed a small snow bridge with running water somewhere underneath us, then climbed up and left onto dirty old ice so we could go above the large rock field. At the rocks, we ran into a group of climbers on their way down, stashed all of our glacier gear, and started scrambling up. We climbed onto the ridge, then followed it up and right into the slabby red rocks leading to a saddle and the lower set of wrap anchors. The climbing here is not hard, but the exposure below is significant. From the ridge, there's a good chute that takes you up to big rocks blocking the summit. I went around to the left, which had some airy 5th class moves on good solid holds, but Glenn and Jeremy came up climbers right of the blocks with easier
Nice,
class
come on.
3 moves.
I think down there is the platform, or a platform. How was that?
Spicy.
Yeah, that was
That
definitely
was the
like,
spicy part. I thought it was the lower part, but it was
uh-huh,
this part.
yeah.
The summit had just enough room for us, so we ate lunch with fantastic views into Boston Basin, with Forbidden Peak, Sharkfin Tower, and Boston Peak, and Horseshoe Basin with Horseshoe Peak and Buckner Mountain on the other side. Here's a look down at the 5th class approach, which I took up to the summit. Since we brought a 70-meter rope, we decided to rappel down off the other side and try to make it all the way down onto the rock field. After some shenanigans with trying to use 2 rappel devices between the 3 of us, we made it down to easier terrain, pulled the rope, and started back towards the glacier. On the way down, I stayed on the ridge and found the small bivvy site, and then continued up to the small peak at the end of the ridge. The view down into Horseshoe Basin from up here was definitely worth it. Back on the snow, we roped up and headed down, with a small side trip to look into one of the big crevasses on the upper part.
There's a crevasse right below us.
The lower, steeper part of the glacier was even harder on the way down, as there were patches where the top layer had melted. Lower down there were also small streams to cross, with cool ice formations. On the way down, we checked out what's supposed to be the most picturesque toilet in Washington. Coming down off the steep rocky part, we came across this goat, which got spooked by a pika. And then the bear was heading back down towards the trail, so we hurried to get across. The way down was much busier, with lots of people coming up and down the trail. I've never wished for a zipline more than when we saw the parking lot and still had all the switchbacks to go down.